Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the Pup to Pro series. In this episode I'm going to talk to you about shaping. We've talked about shaping in an earlier episode, but this time we're really getting into the nitty gritty of it, and I'm also going to show you how you can use that with a hoop, which you've just looked at in the previous video. Shaping means that you're asking your dog to think about something and work out a puzzle for itself about the behaviour you want from them. With shaping, you avoid using a lure to guide the puppy to do something. You're avoiding using any sort of training such as aversive training where you would push the dog into a down or a sit, anything like that. And you're not using things like a lead on them to guide them round. What you're doing, you're asking the dog to choose to do something and then reward it. The idea behind, you can't eat the rabbit skin. The idea behind shaping is that it builds up a stronger behaviour. The dog, because it's had to think of what it's doing for itself, the behaviour is more ingrained in the dog rather than just being guided. It's the same with people. If you've had to work something out for yourself, you're more likely to retain that information. If someone's shown you how to do it, a bit like being on a computer, someone shows you, press that, press that, press that, the next time you're on the computer you go, oh, I don't remember, they showed me, I didn't really take it in. Whereas if you've had to work it out for yourself, maybe you've had to find a guide online or something like that, it tends to stick a bit better. Same with dogs, absolutely same with dogs. Shaping also builds resilience to failure, because when you're shaping, naturally there's going to be failures with the dog doing things that weren't what you wanted, so you don't reward them. The dog then learns that failure is okay. I've got my older dog Merlin, who's now 10. He was never taught with shaping, he was all lure-based training. Can you get your nose out of there, please? And I noticed with him, he really struggled with failure. I was always light-hearted about failures. No, I've never punished him for failures or anything like that. But he in himself, he couldn't cope with failure. When we've done things like shaping games in his later life, you find with him, he wants you to show. He'll just sit there and stare at me and go, just show me what you want and I'll do it. Because he hasn't got that experience with shaping, and it's just taken away an element of his ability to learn. Can you come out there? Whereas as you go through my dogs and I get more experience with shaping, certainly get to Swift and then to Pi Pi, it's a very noticeable difference about what they can do and how they'll try things. Now, if you've never done shaping, it is a bit of a skill to learn. The big thing is the temptation to help the dog. So your dog's not getting it, you think to yourself, oh, this isn't good, I'll lure it the first time and then it'll know. It's very tempting to do that. How we do overcome that is that we break the behaviour down into small sections so that it's fairly easy for the dog to grasp what we want without us having to then lure them. If you've got a young puppy or a dog that's never done shaping, you need to make the game really easy and simple for them to achieve, because they don't understand what shaping is at that stage. As they get more experienced, you can push that dog to try more harder things. But certainly at an early stage, and if you're new to this, it needs to be really dead simple. Generally with shaping, we always use some sort of object to assist us. What we want to do is we want to put an object down that attracts the dog's natural curiosity. The dog then investigates the object and we can reward that, and then we can work on looking at a certain behaviour on that object. So if they were looking at this mat down here, say I wanted my dog to go on it and sit on it. Initially I just put it down and wait and see my dog go up to it and sniff it. That would be rewarded. I'd do that a few times and then I'd wait for them to put the foot on it and put more foot on, and eventually we'd work up to the behaviour of sitting. So we do use things to assist our dogs like targets. Usually shaping is done with an object, and we put an object down, could be a box, it could be a toy, and we wait and see what the dog does with it, and we can then reward that. But we don't usually do shaping with nothing. As our dog gets more experienced, that's a different story. As my dogs get more and more experienced, it could be a case that I just wait and see what they do. I remember reading about that in a Mary Ray book. who obviously did all the dog dancing and heel work, she would just sit with her dogs and she'd watch them and wait to see if they did a behaviour for her. And they would throw a behaviour at her and she'd go, yeah, I like that. And she'd reward it. But that comes when your dog has a good understanding of what shaping is, because some dogs will literally just sit there and stare at you and go, well, if you're just sitting there, I'll just sit here. So, that comes with experience. The important thing with shaping is to be patient, not to get frustrated and not to get cross. It's all about breaking this down into behaviours we can figure out with the dogs. So I'm going to show you a very simple exercise using a hoop, how we can shape value for the hoop. This is what I did with Magpie when I was first shaping her to go through a hoop. I did this game so that she learned value for going through there, and then you can see where we've gotten up to later on in the previous video. I wouldn't normally have these mats. This one has been very magpied, can you see? But because I'm on wet grass and the treats tend to disappear, I'm going to put these down. If I was doing this inside in a living room, I wouldn't bother. But because with the long grass being a little bit long, treats tend to disappear, I'm going to just do this, put these down to assist Magpie in finding them. I'm putting them down pretty close. You could look at them as target mats. I did not actually train this with these. So they were not here originally when I trained this game, just so you know. They're just here. But you could obviously use target mats if you did want to, and you would actually be teaching the behaviour if you had them running over them. You're actually teaching a behaviour that you could use for running contacts, and you can use it in hoopers for the tango mat in hoopers, which is like that. So, you could actually use that. When we start shaping, the odds are our puppy and dog is not used to picking treats up off the floor. They're used to picking them out of our hand. Certainly that was the case with Pi Pi. So we need to get our dog to understand what they're doing, else the game won't work. So initially, if I'm teaching them to find treats on the floor, Magpie, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to say search, which is my word to look for a treat on the floor, search, and put that down. Good girl. Now you can see she's got this, but this actually, when she first did it, she couldn't work this out. Okay, search. So they're tiny little bits of treat, and she's learning that she's got to go to the ground to get them up. Okay, search. So that's what you do to begin with. Get your dog used to looking for a treat. Now we can start asking her to do a bit more stuff along with shaping. Now, I've put a hoop down. She obviously knows what a hoop is, but your new dog will hopefully show some curiosity about this. Are you going to try and do a target work? You see, now this might be a failure with the target mats because she's going, I sit on that. But what I'd be looking for the dog, good girl, search, is I want her to go near the hoop initially. Did you get it? Did you get it? Search. Now you can see, because she's already done a bit with the hoop, she is, good girl, she's going through it herself. But when she first started, I was happy for her, you missed a bit there, to come up to the hoop, search, and I threw the treat just for her to get. I wasn't luring her because she'd already done the behaviour. I was rewarding her, but rewarding her outside the hoop, search, go get it, so that she could then move forward through the hoop, search, and she was building up that behaviour, search. Now you can see, because she's done this a bit, search, we don't even need those mats anymore. Let's get those mats out of the way, because she's jumping through those hoops nice. She's running through the hoop nicely. Search, and throwing out. Now this took us up, search. This took us, search. One session, search. And then there was lots of hesitations, search. I got stuck to my finger. So don't think, search. Okay, come here, Magpie, and sit. Good girl. Don't think it happened instantly. It takes time. You'll notice, Magpie, sit. Good girl, sit. You notice that she's looking at me when she's going through the hoop. Now, I would prefer her not to do that. So I'm going to get a bit more canny about throwing my treat. And look, we've got the behaviour down. We go, yeah, I go through the hoop. So that I can work out that behaviour, get rid of it. And that is another element of shaping. It's there, lovely. you look at your behaviour and you go, that's good, but I want to tweak it. And so then we tweak it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the treat a bit faster so that she isn't looking at me. Right, where are you, gorgeous? Magpie. Search. Search. So she's going through that hoop. I know she's going to go through that hoop. Now I'm shaping the behaviour of looking ahead rather than looking at me. Come back here. Search. A bit more timing on my part. Good girl, got it. Search. 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 Search there. See what I mean about losing it on grass? Search. Search. Ah, it's got stuck to my finger. Search. But you can see she's got this behaviour. Search. She's got this behaviour now to search. And she is just search. Driving backwards and forwards, search. Bit further forward. Good girl. Search. And we're getting search. Commitment to an obstacle. And we're teaching shaping. And that is so simple. Good girl. Search. Search. Okay, come here, bye-bye. Sit. Good girl. And you know, it's such a simple thing to teach, but the amount of value we're getting from that little game, and it's a great starting point for you. And obviously you can do this with other obstacles. If you haven't got a hoop, you could do it just going to a mat. You could use a mat and just get them to go on the mat and sit, which you can see she does. As you can see, she's now got such value for going back and forth through this hoop that she's building up obstacle commitment. Yeah, I'm just going to go back and forwards through it, and then hopefully you'll throw a sausage at me. Come here, my maid. Okay, good girl, sit, good girl, wait. And you can build on this. There's loads of behaviours you can do. I've done this, shaping them to go into a box. Teaching them to do turns, sit, putting their paws up on an object. Fetch games. With Merlin I do a lot of games where he brings objects to me, shaping them. So there's so much you can do. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll see a lot of the shaping games I do with, because I post little videos of what we're doing training wise. So you can see that. Good girl. One last thing I want to talk about is the use of a clicker. Now traditionally we do shaping with a clicker. That's where it came from originally, the use of a clicker. You'll notice I didn't. I do use a clicker at times. I use it less than I used to. The reason for that tends to be I tend to be doing something where I need my hands. So it's easier for me to just use a cue word such as yes. Actually search is actually a reward word because search tells you got that right, the food is coming, or yes like that. So I use a word to say when she gets things right. The point of a clicker is the click sound, and we've seen this in earlier videos, rewards the dog. As I say, when I get to these stages, because I haven't that many hands to do it, if you think I'm using both hands to throw treats, it gets complicated. The other thing is clickers can be very specific about the behaviour they reward. That is excellent when we're doing something really, which needs a lot of finesse. But when we're doing a behaviour like this, where I want her to run forward through the hoop, we can get to a stage where the clicker is reinforcing the behaviour in the wrong place because it is such a specific reward. So for instance, she could be coming through the hoop and I click there, which would be logical. She could then start to work out in her head, I get a click when I'm here. So we could get in a stage where she pauses there instead of driving through. Because she thinks to herself, this is where I get the click. And so if I stop here, which is effectively a form of shaping, she's thinking to herself, how can I improve this behaviour? What if I stop here? Then, you know, we could get problems. So sometimes I use a clicker, usually for really finesse games, where perhaps I want a very specific foot paw target things. I tend to use it when I feel it'll be good for the dog. And then other times I just use words. The other thing with clicker is that if you use the clicker, the dog tends to automatically look to you because they go, that's the treats coming. Which in this game, I want them to drive forward and not look at me. So I don't want them to look, click means look at mum because I've got it right. So that's just a few things to bear in mind, and certainly you can use a clicker on this, no problem. Or just use a reward word like yes, good, well done. And then obviously your search cue. So that's how you go about shaping a hoop or shaping any project like this. It's a good thing to start with your puppies, and it's a good thing to try with older dogs. It will help enormously. I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and if you have, you might like to check out our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe on there to us and get notifications of all the new videos coming out. You can also check us out on Instagram and Facebook, and there's lots of other videos going to be on there showing little things that I do, so there's loads of stuff for you to look at. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon.